Wednesday Week is sponsored by Oddballs, a speciality. Go to www.oddballsaspeciality.com.
There's a chance here, a great save by Turner from McLaren. Might come a terrific goal by Sheridan.
Brexman against Jones. Get in.
You could have two goalkeepers in there that would have trouble with saving that.
The Wednesday Week! Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to the Wednesday Week, the Sheffield Wednesday podcast. I'm Lord Hillsborough, and with me on the line, first of all, we have James. Hey there, James, old boy.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. And we have Victoria. Hello, my dear.
Good evening, my lord.
How are you, my darling?
I'm all right, thank you.
And it is just the three of us this evening. It's a very cosy little affair. Edward is still in France, where clearly they have no internet connection at all, and Fudge is off doing Fudgy type things, which best left unsaid, really. So we've got quite a lot to get through. It seems like an age since we've run one of these, boys and girls, and the sort of fixture pile-up has got us on top of us a little bit. So let's crack on, shall we? And we'll start off with the Reading game. This was my first trip to Hillsborough.
Do we have to?
Of this season. And I must admit, when I first got into the ground, there was definitely a different buzz around the place. Fans seem excited. Hillsborough looks beautiful, of course, even when it's raining. And then the football happened. And, well...
The buzz didn't last, did it?
It didn't last too long. Oh, boy. James, I assume you were at the game, old boy. What were your thoughts on the whole affair?
Yeah, well, it wasn't great, was it? Let's put it that way. I kind of think that it was... It's strange talking about it now because two more games have happened and it sort of feels like a little bit of a distant memory. But at the time, I kind of thought maybe this is a bit of a reality check now because we wanted this kind of flamboyant European coach that would come in with all these modern coaching methods, and we wanted this kind of fast-flowing attacking football that we saw against Bristol City, we saw it against Mansfield. Didn't quite happen at Ipswich, but then we did actually see it for the first 10 minutes against Reading. I thought we started really brightly for the first 10 minutes. The problem was that when it doesn't work, we don't really know what to do, and it all fell to bits. And we can't grind out results, which is what we need to do. When it's raining on a cold, damp, pretty miserable Wednesday night, you're playing a team like Reading who know how to scrap, and we just weren't with it. With Carlos and the way that he's doing things at the moment, it just wasn't happening. You've got to be able to fight, you've got to be able to battle, and we didn't. We kind of gave up, and we might as well have not been on the pitch for half of that game, really. What worried me the most, I think, was that Reading seemed to do exactly what Ipswich did. And it was as if they'd watched the DVD of the Ipswich game and said, right, let's go out and do that. And it worked because we just had no reply for it. They packed the midfield. They were just better than us. It's sort of water under the bridge, and I don't want to kind of go on and on about it. And I made down some notes at the time about, players that were particularly poor. And it sort of feels like there's kind of no point bringing it back up. I think we all wanted to see a bit of improvement at Leeds, and we did, and we'll talk about that in a bit. And we all wanted to be able to kind of see some sort of light at the end of the tunnel of what had been a pretty bad night. One thing that I really didn't like about it was fans booing at half time, which I thought was really, really, really off. I don't like booing at any time, but at half time when they're still going to come back out for 45 minutes, that was unnecessary. And the other thing, and I had a really good think afterwards, because I thought, right, I'm going to come on the podcast and I need to be able to finish with something positive about the Reading game. And it took a while, but I got there. So what I thought was that every team has bad games each season. So you imagine the team that's won the championship for the last 10 seasons has had 2 or 3 off games, but they still end up getting results. Reading was one of our off games. It was just right at the start of the season. We played terribly, we got a last-minute goal, and we got a point. Ergo, we're going to win the championship.
Simple as that.
There we go.
Absolutely, that's my kind of thinking. Oh boy, certainly. I must agree with the halftime booing. Not a fan at all. We did have a bit of an email. We had another email flood in, ladies and gents.
Oof.
Crikey!
Hold us back.
From Leo, who's a Wednesday fan. He actually lives down in Exeter, and he basically made a 500-mile round trip to basically come watch football against Reading. And he did mention in his email that one of the big things that he thought was holding the team back as a squad, if you like, is the crowd. Basically, mentioned that significant parts of the crowd were just getting on the players' backs. And I mean, certainly when I'm out loading, I wouldn't like sort of one person stood behind me jeering at every decision I make, let alone a couple of thousand. I mean, it can't be easy, can it?
I think the thing is, I wasn't there at Reading. I'll hold my hands up for that. I listened to it from bed. I wasn't very well. And I mean, literally had the window open in my bedroom. I could hear everything. That bloody band. But other than that, I think Wednesday is probably one of the hardest teams to play for, because if you're having a good day, you're a legend. People are going to kiss your feet. They're going to worship you anytime. But if you have the one touch that goes wrong, everybody is on your back. And that's the sort of attitude that we've had since we went down from the Premier League. It seems to be that we've got this massive chip on our shoulder that we feel like we should be something that we're not. And you'd have thought by now, 16 years later, we'd have pulled ourselves out of that. But we get on backs, and there's no need. People have a bad game. Like, I've hated players over the years. I have, and I've not liked some players at all. But I'd never, ever boo a guy in a Wednesday shirt. It's just, you've paid to go there. Why would you want to make them feel worse and possibly make them play worse than they already are?
Yeah, and it's awful as well when we've got players that we've only recently signed and players that are new to the English game, and the impression that they might end up getting if it was to continue like that is such a negative impression, not just of our club but of English football generally. And I would then question whether or not if someone else from abroad gets an offer from Wednesday and they maybe, through someone they know, get a bit of advice from someone that's at the club who says, no, you don't want to come here. The fans are horrible. You do one thing wrong and they're on your back.
Cristiano apparently slammed the phone down when he heard about us. So Samido had a word and said you can try.
But as James said, I think it was what it was, and if we're going to grind out results against, to me it just seems like we've got all these wonderful players that are used to playing in the sunshine, and it was raining, and they're just not used to it. I would like to give a bit of a shout to Lewis Price. It wasn't fantastic on the day, but there was quite a few sort of low shots that went in, and obviously when it's that kind of weather, we were always taught as boys to hit it low and hit it hard when it's raining, and he seemed to pull off a couple of good saves that did that.
On the subject of Lewis Price, does he wear a jersey that's 2 sizes too big for him, or is he just a bit of a big guy?
He does look massive.
He really does look, but he's not that tall, is he?
No,
he looks slightly out of proportion.
David Lucas all over again.
I'm a portly chap myself, and certainly when I was a kid, he always got me stuck in goal, and that might be the reason. But no, quite rightly. It is what it is, and we'll put it to bed and we'll crack on, shall we? So next up, looking forward to this one. Had been for a while. Leeds derby. Can we call it a derby first of all? Is that something? I'm always a bit iffy calling Leeds a derby.
Well, it's almost like a different country to me, to be honest. I don't go there unless I absolutely have to. Several injections and tablets taken before even possibly straying into that awful part of the world.
Yeah, nevertheless, though, we were expecting a raucous affair, and I don't really think it led up to what we were expecting, really, was it?
I think people have said a lot about this game, and I heard it last night at the match, and I thought it was all right. I was sat watching it and I thought, you know what? We're not the best team in the world. They're not the best team in the world. But as a neutral, I don't think I'd have turned it off. I think it was okay. It was a standard championship match where both teams had nothing to lose particularly. It's the beginning of the season. It's a derby, but it's not a derby. They don't give a toss. Like, either player on that pitch could not care less if they're playing Sheffield Wednesday, Leeds United, Blackburn or Bolton or whoever. But I thought it was all right. I thought we played okay the first half. We'll forget the second half. But the first half, I thought we did amazing. And can we just please remember that one moment of magic from Marco Matthias? I want to watch it again now. Now I've just mentioned it, I just want to watch it again. Someone had actually put it on Pornhub, which I thought was just perfect. Brilliant. And it had like 400 views.
I don't know what you're talking about, my dear.
Some bloke had logged on to Pornhub from Sheffield and thought, no, do you know what? I'm going to watch that instead. That's better. And it was. Let's be honest. I watched it at first. I got the dog on my lap, and I just kind of sat in like awe, and then just kept rewinding it, and it was just phenomenal. And if Rooney would have scored that'd be a Sky Sports advert for the rest of the season.
To be fair, it has been scattered around quite a lot on the internet.
Yeah.
I've seen it on all kinds of different sites and stuff like that. It won the Sky Sports Goal of the Day thing, didn't it? And all that kind of stuff. And it was a fantastic goal. And actually, the fact the rest of the match wasn't amazing, it doesn't matter. It was worth it just for that moment.
Yeah,
just
definitely.
What a brilliant goal. And I'm not going to blow my own trumpet here, but I am going to claim that I called that one a little, because the night before the match I tweeted saying we should play Matthias up front because he's got goals in him.
Yeah,
so
middle of the match,
I saw it coming.
tweeted. Everyone was slating him on Twitter. I was sat watching it, and everyone was absolutely slating him, saying he goes down too easy, he's too soft, and blah, blah. And I tweeted, I like Matthias, and what? Or something like that. And then the next thing, 10 minutes later, that came along, and I was just like, that's one for the future. That's something that, don't get me wrong, I mean, we're getting on to last night in a bit, but he tried a few times last night and it came nowhere near. And I did worry we've got a bit of a Jermaine Johnson going on. But that was just phenomenal. Absolutely.
Really
I wish I'd have been there.
Absolutely. I mean, looking at the game as a whole, as we said, I mean, the first half was brilliant. I mean, we basically mullered them the first half, didn't we?
I tell you what, I thought our midfield was outstanding. I thought Hutch, Lee, Semedo all put in brilliant shifts, particularly first half, but pretty much the whole game, to be fair, they were great. And it's strange, all the players that we've brought in, and those are the three that I think are really kind of standing out at the moment, particularly Kieran Lee. The last 2 or 3 games, I think, looked really, really good. And I thought Sugu looked quite dangerous at times. I thought Dave kind of held the ball up quite well at times, and that's me trying to say something quite positive on what was generally a fairly poor performance from him. The worry, though, I think from the Leeds game is that there's still times where defensively we look a bit weak and we look a bit fragile in the way that we didn't at all last season. This season, we do. We look vulnerable at the back, and that worries me a bit.
We are missing Louvens, though. I think we are.
We are, but I didn't feel that we looked any less vulnerable when Louvens was in.
Yeah.
I think it's just something about this season that we just look vulnerable. I can kind of understand why he dropped Jack Hunt for that game, because I think Hunt's brilliant at coming forward. Defensively, he's lacking a little bit, whereas Palmer's a lot more solid defensively. And I thought Palmer had a really good game, actually.
Palmer was outstanding.
He did look really good. He was my man of the
match, definitely.
And I think that Jack Hunt now will have a job on to get Palmer back out of the team, because I think he deserves to keep his place for the game on Saturday now.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, specifically thinking about Palmer, he wasn't far away from scoring himself, was he? I mean, he broke up the play at the back. He basically ran the length of the pitch, and just a little bit more power on the header, and he could have won us the game.
We were like on the edge of the sofa. The script was written, wasn't it? He started the move, he ran and ran and ran and ran. The ball came in, and you just thought, this is it, it's going to score. And then it was probably the weakest header I've ever seen. And to be fair, I don't think I've ever seen Liam Palmer head a football before. I just don't think it's ever happened, so we can't blame him for it.
I think it's like we were saying the other week, though, about like Joe Wildsmith and being a Wednesday fan. He's grown up on the terraces, and like you only have to look at Liam Palmer on social media. I mean, I've known Liam since he was about 14. I don't really know him now, but I knew him as a young lad, and he's always been a Wednesday fan. He's been solid all the way through. Him and his dad, I think his dad's called Terry, if I'm right, and they've always been huge Wednesday fans, and he wants it. He wants to play for Wednesday. He'd play for Noel. Like, he's one of these guys that would genuinely play to put the shirt on, and he's so proud to be in a Wednesday shirt, and that showed big time. Like I said, like none of them gave a toss the other day because it was Leeds, but he did because he knows, because he's a Wednesday fan, he knows, and he put his all in on Saturday. He really did. And I like I said, I thought it was I thought we did all right. I think the people that have been slating it need to wake up a bit. I mean, it's one of the first games of the season. We're playing what you would probably call our biggest rival in the league. I wouldn't say that Rotherham were particularly. I'd say it was Leeds, and I think we did all right. It was a good enough game to watch. I quite enjoyed it. I was on the edge of my seat towards the end, but it was, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, dare I say the lead striker, Chris Wood, is he the kind of chap that we're looking for at Hillsborough? I mean, to me...
Didn't we try and sign him?
We were linked with him, weren't we?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He's a chunky old unit, isn't he, Chris Wood?
He really is, yeah, absolutely.
He's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, his hold-up play seemed to be really, really good. Obviously, the positioning for the goal, he was pointing where he wanted it, and far be it from me to sort of, especially with that lot, chuff it, but no, I mean, it is a debate that is rumbling on, the old new debate, and where's these strikers are coming from, and obviously we'll have a little look into that later on. But all in all, do you think one apiece was a fair result for the game?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd have taken that before. And after watching it, I'd have taken that at the end. I think both teams did all right.
One thing though, Liam, do your hair. Good Lord, what was it with his hair that day? But I mean, looking at the, I know James, I know you're gonna hate this already, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna look at the league table, and I apologise.
No, not before Christmas. It's banned. We banned it.
It's been a decent start. I mean, look, we've been a lot worse off at this sort of a few games in, haven't we? Let's face it, we're 10th at the moment. And I think that's pretty much fair. But I think we're still waiting for this click. I hate the phrase, but the team to gel properly. And to me, everything's going out wide at the moment. We don't have a great deal through the middle at the minute, and it is a little bit worrying.
But that's the system, isn't it? That's the way that we're always going to play. That's why our main recruitment has been in those wide areas, not just forward wide areas, but also defensively to make sure that we can play it through the wide areas as well. And that's what the system was always going to be. That's why Nuiu's been a big part of the system up to now. I think the Middlesbrough match is going to be an interesting one, and I'm sure we'll talk about that later on. But that is a really big test. But it's also the game before we go into a 2-week international break. So if we're going to think about reevaluating, or if Carlos is going to think about reevaluating where we're at and how we need to be approaching games, then that's going to be the time that he does it, isn't it? After the Middlesbrough match.
I mean, one of the things that, again, going back to that, I mean, I love wing play. It's something that's been missing at Hillsborough for a long time, I think. But if that's all we've got and we're playing one long striker, again, going back to the Reading game, the crosses were coming in and Zhao stood there on his own, and we've not got a great, I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a great big lump, of course he is, but if we've just got one chap in the box, surely if we're going to be having wing play, we need to be playing two strikers.
I don't really get this kind of one striker argument, because it never really, when you're on the attack, it doesn't work like that. I think the one striker becomes relevant when you're hoofing the ball up the field and you're hoping that lone striker is going to be able to hold the ball up, and then he plays it out to the wingman. Effectively, when you're on the attack, that lone striker becomes a three forward line. And with the way we've been playing as well, and particularly with Hutchinson and the role that he's been playing, is that when we're attacking, we seem to drop to a back three, and our two full backs are really part of that attack. So I think the problem is more just being the quality of balls coming in. For the first couple of games were really good, and since then it's dropped off a bit. I don't think there's anything wrong with playing the way that we are doing. If we're going to play down the wings, I think we probably need someone better in the middle to get on the end of it, and maybe someone better playing in a sort of a number 10 role that can do things a little bit differently, but we haven't got it at the moment, so we've got to play with what we've got.
I think before we slate him as well, it should be noted that, because I am going to slate him in a minute, and I'm very, very sorry, but Nuhiu, at half-time at the Leeds match, the Sky pundits were raving about him like we do. And I think they're the only other people that I've heard speak about him like that, but they were saying about how he is the key to this team, and I genuinely think he's one of these players that, at the moment, don't get me wrong, he's having a really naff patch. He's not doing well. He wasn't good last night. He's had a bad couple of games. But I think that as we push further on, he could be really key for us in that sort of formation. If we are lumping stuff forwards, he's the guy that's going to get it. Yeah, he can't head it. Yeah, he's not got the best first touch, but he can hold up a ball and he does fight for it back. So I agree with what the Sky pundit said about him, and if they say it, it must be true.
But the thing is that they've not seen him all that much.
Yeah, but it's Dave.
But the thing is, it's three years on now, and we're still saying the same, which is he'll come good. There is you can see good in him. He's actually got a good touch, and he's not a terrible footballer at all. Whatever people might say about how he's awful and he's just he's dire, he's not. He's got a good touch, and he's got a lot of positives about him. But 3 years later, we're still saying the same thing, that we're waiting for him to come good. And there's got to be a point where you just say, do you know what? It's not going to happen. We've got to move on.
It's a bit of a sodgy situation, isn't it? Everyone said the same about him, and eventually you had to just say, nah.
The stupid thing is that if we get an offer for him before the end of this transfer window, would you take it? Because I'd be quite tempted to, with the way things are at the moment. I think he's lost quite a lot of the fans, and I think that I'd be tempted to cash in at this moment in time. The annoying thing about it is that if we did, he would go somewhere else and he would be outstanding. He would be banging in 25 goals a season without a doubt.
Yeah. I think I'd want to see what the offer was. Wasn't there a rumour? Was it last season that we turned down $2 million for him?
I don't think we're in a position to turn down $2 million last season, were we?
I think we were. I'm sure there was some sort of thing that we turned down about $1.5–2 million for him.
I'd have snapped his hand off for that, and I love Dave.
I think the thing is we got him quite cheap, but I'm pretty sure he's one of our highest earners by a mile. Maybe not so much this season, but definitely last season. And you've got to look at the investment in wages as well. And if that's, but if we can get rid of a new Hugh and get in 2 strikers on the same sort of wages, maybe that's better. But I'd want to see what the offer was before I said I'd sell him or not.
I just think if you're serious about being a top 6 championship side, is Newey really going to be your first choice striker? I just can't see it.
And this is a discussion we had on the very first podcast, sort of seeing him play, and I think looking at the social medias, people are a little bit disappointed, shall we say. That's me being polite, because there's been some rather foul language used against Dave. But don't worry, be arty. Oh no. Jeeves, we're going to need some more equipment.
Then you need to speak to Oddballs, a speciality.
What the?
Oddballs, a speciality deal in steel, food, and engineering equipment.
Where's that voice coming from?
We offer great deals on all types of equipment and can include dismantling, delivery, and erection anywhere in the world.
Did he just say erection?
We can also buy your surplus equipment or sell it on commission. With over 30 years' experience, let us achieve the best deal for you.
Where can I find out more, Voice in the Sky?
Go to www.oddballsaspeciality.com.
You heard him, folks. Jeeves, get a broom. Right then, so let's crack on. And, of course, next up we continued our Capital Cup run with the visit of Oxford. Victoria, you didn't seem too pleased.
I do apologise to all our Twitter followers, but I had more fun playing on my phone. 2048, great app. Play on that if you're bored at Hillsborough. I was tweeting, I was moaning, I had a coffee, that didn't wake me up. It was just dire last night. It was absolutely dire, and I'm sorry, I know I moaned a lot, but that was terrible. I was watching that bit of boot tape flying around the pitch for half an hour. It was just awful.
The boot tape was quite good. I can't argue.
The boot tape was great. That was the highlight of the night. I got the trivia question right. It was Guy Whittingham. I knew that.
I'm not sure I particularly completely agree with you on it. It certainly wasn't a classic. It was scrappy, it was messy, and yeah, we certainly weren't great, but I don't think that we were awful at all. I think Oxford were a much tidier team than I expected them to be. They came with a pretty good game plan. They had 10 men behind the ball for most of the game, and 3 men around any of our players who had possession. And it doesn't matter who you are and what league you're in. It's hard to break through that. We had quite a few chances, and we did look nervous in front of goal, and that's quite worrying. If you look nervous in front of goal against Oxford, then what are we going to do against Middlesbrough? Because we've got to take our chances against them. But there were players that had good games. Semedo had a good game. Kieran Lee had a good game.
Fantastic, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It certainly wasn't, it wasn't terrible. And I don't know if you'd agree with this, but I find myself thinking I can see something in Vincent Sasso. I think he's got something there. The problem is at the moment he's got a mistake in him, but I think there's real potential in that lad.
Sasso reminds me a lot of Joe Mattock when we first signed him. I think he does make the odd mistake, but I can see him becoming a solid centre half. But how old is he? Do we know?
He's only young, isn't he? He's only about 22.
He seems like quite a young lad, yeah, to be playing that sort of position. He seems very, very young. And maybe it's going to be, the sort of situation we saw with Beavers or, like I said, with Mattock or a few others that we've had in the back four that have, they've made the odd mistake, but they have come good. But last night, I disagree. I thought it was awful.
All right. What did you think about Lopez?
Lopez was awful. I think the only players last night that can hold their head high are Semedo, Lee, and what's his face, Jack Hunt.
Okay.
I think other than that, they were awful.
The Lopez one's really interesting because I've seen quite a few people tweeting today saying, "Oh, he was the best player on the pitch by an absolute mile," and I can't believe there's people slating him. And my mate that I was sat with said, "Oh, Lopez had a brilliant game, didn't he? He was really good." I was like, well, yeah, he was all right, but I thought he was way off the pace. Yeah. And he's got this tendency that you sometimes get with players that come from elsewhere in Europe, whereby he gets possession. And Semedo did this, I think, when we first got him, and tends to kind of run backwards before setting back round.
Defensive, yeah.
Yeah, and just didn't seem to be up with the pace of the English game. So he's got to get with that. But his vision is great, and his reading of the game is really, really good. So I think that he's another lad that I think's got something. It's just going to take a little while to see it come to fruition.
Well, I think the most exciting thing to come from the Oxford game was our rather important visitor to Hillsborough, Timmy Mallett. Apparently, he's a massive Oxford fan. I must confess, I've been a huge Timmy Mallett fan myself, and quite simply, I'd have paid the £12 just to go and shake his hand.
Mallett's Mallett was. Poster of him, you Lord?
Absolutely. Growing up, although it saddens me to say so, along with my posters of David Hurst and Chris Waddle and etc., there was rather a large poster of Timmy Mallett on my wall as well.
Mallett's Mallett was amazing. And what was the other game that he used to play where he had the little toy soldier that used to go along the conveyor belt and fall in the custard? That was good.
Oh, my word. Make me feel very old again. What is it with you two? Just come on here to make me feel old, don't you?
I remember it as well, so I'm feeling it too, Lord, don't worry.
I remember him on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here.
Bless him. But no, apparently he's a season ticket holder at Oxford, and obviously just fantastic to see him. There's a lovely photo of him and Ozzy and Barney, who we promptly tweeted afterwards and thanked him for the opportunity for the autograph.
Is he still wearing the glasses?
He certainly is.
Yep.
Wow.
And the waistcoat.
What a guy! What a guy!
Before the game, he actually tweeted a picture. He said the Mallett boys have come to Hillsborough, so I assume the other chap was his brother. No glasses.
Is he in some sort of like crew? Is it like the OCS but with Timmy Mallett?
But no, absolutely thrilled to see him. Obviously, the simple fact of the matter remains is that a win's a win, isn't it? We got through, and of course, we're facing Newcastle in the next round.
Yeah, how good's that? I'm quite excited about this. I've never been to St James Park before, so I'm really pumped for this one.
The last time I went to St James's Park, I was literally on the back row, and that view is enough to give you a nosebleed. And there's no lifts, there's no escalators. It was about 5 flights of stairs. You just kept going up and up and up and up, and then finally we got there, and I was like, well, I could have watched this on Sky. I've got the exact same view. It was horrendous. But you could see all of Newcastle if you look to your left, because obviously like the away stand's quite high. You could see all of the Tyne Bridge and everything. It was lovely. But we did lose, so wasn't the best night of my life.
It wasn't the 8-0, was it?
No, thank God. No.
To be honest, I mean, I would love it if we go there and beat them. I'd absolutely love it. Sorry. But no, and I mean, looking at the actual cup as a whole, I mean, we had a tweet from a chap the other day. I apologise, I don't have the information with me at the moment. But I mean, remnants of 1991. I mean, we're doing well in the League Cup, and promotion is that on the cards. How are we going to have a 91 sort of redo here?
Let's not get carried away with the song,
No.
shall we?
Oh, no, let's get carried away.
You didn't go last night. No. let's not get carried away at all.
Tell you what's interesting is the number of Championship clubs that have gone out already, and last night the number of Premier League and Championship clubs that had a really hard time against lower league opposition. And as bad as it was last night, and it was pretty poor, we certainly controlled that match. Oxford did not look like scoring at all.
Oxford were great though. They played good football. Like, I don't think you'd have known there were so many leagues between us, and their fans were outstanding.
Yeah, they were.
Their
They were
fans were
great.
absolutely brilliant. It was a Tuesday, wet, cold, horrible night up in Sheffield, and they came out in their I think it was over 1,000, wasn't it?
Something like that, yeah. Really
And
good.
they sang all the way through, and I think they should be so proud. Like, they've got a great fan base behind him. I'd love to see him go higher up the league. I really would.
Yep, I'd second that.
And let's face it, if you've got Timmy Mallet as the sort of head of your fan
Exactly.
base, you'd follow him
Elton
anywhere,
John
wouldn't you?
or Delia. You don't need Elton, you don't need Delia, you need Timmy Mallet. That's it. He gets the crowd going.
They should appoint him as physio so he can run on with his little elastopasts. That'd be retro.
Like, where are you?
I'm so old.
Where are you?
Right then, so let's move on to this week's Wednesday news, shall we, ladies and gents? Well, I said this week, it's been around about a week and a half, should we say. A few things popped out. First things first, I think we should all, and I'm sure everybody will agree, congratulations to Mr. McGugan, who has
Well done.
had the birth of his first child.
I kind of feel like we should just go like, "Wee, well done, Lewis, wee."
We know what you've been doing 9 months ago.
So let's crack on with a little bit more news. Apparently, we've got a Wednesday, maybe not legend, but certainly a Wednesday flag waver back in Sheffield, coaching over at Sheffield FC. Monsieur Miguel Llera is back in Sheffield, ladies and gents, and quite happy to see it.
I feel just before we go any further, on behalf of Fudge, I have to point out it is Llera, not Llera.
Of course. And I'm sure that Helen doesn't mind me calling him Helen, and Zhao is still Joa. But nevertheless, I mean, it's just wonderful to have him sort of a little bit closer.
Yeah, he was a Wednesday legend, wasn't he? He was great. We loved him. It was sad to see him go. He had to move on. He wasn't really up to it anymore. But brilliant to know that he's still involved in football. And I'm one of those strange people that when there's an international break, I just can't deal with a week without football. So Sheffield FC is somewhere that I do go a couple of times a year to go and watch them and cheer them on when there's an international break. Great little club, great little setup, and I'm chuffed to bits for him, and I think it's great for them as well.
I'll fix you up with my dad. He's got a season ticket. You can go and play together.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I like it because it's got a pub built into it.
Exactly.
And it's a good pub.
Not if they move, though. Bloody Olive Grove.
No, well, they're talking about that, aren't they? I think
They
they can
are.
move the pub as well, surely. That's not asking too much.
Miguel came across as a lovely bloke. I know from, obviously, the Riverside Cafe, we've all mentioned before, we've been for a drink there before together. He always used to go in for an espresso before the match. I think that's just a sign of a true professional. If he just pops in his club suit, has a quick shot of coffee and heads off to the ground 50 yards down the road. And he always made time for everyone. And there's legendary photos of him being lifted up in that game against Wickham. And, I want to see him do well. And fair play to him for not just retiring and saying, I've made enough money. Because let's be honest, he probably has. But he's one of these that's found Sheffield and thought, I'm going to stay here for a bit. And that happens with, I think, as a city, we've got the biggest alumni sort of population in Europe as far as universities are concerned. And maybe that'll happen with Sheffield as a football alumni city, just not weighed small.
Absolutely. Well, we kept James from Barnsley.
Exactly.
You can send me back if you need to.
We wouldn't do that to you, old boy. Right, so let's crack on and let's have a little look to this Middlesbrough game, because I must admit I'm a little bit concerned about this one. Middlesbrough are looking really, really good, aren't they?
Yeah, bricking it a little bit, to be honest, about this weekend. It's a huge test, it really is. But we've actually got a decent record against Middlesbrough in recent years. For what that counts for, I don't know, but that is the kind of the little bit of hope that I'm taking into this weekend is that the last few times that we've played them, we've kind of thought, not a great time to be playing them, and we did the double over them last season. We were the only team to do that. I think Artie scored 3 goals against them last season, and
Absolutely.
I'm not sure he scored probably the only 3 gols he scored all season. So yeah, I think that gives us.
He got 9. I was counting down. Don't forget.
No, I think that it's a big test, and the good thing is that now we've had a couple of games where we've maybe not done as well as we'd have liked to have done. We can go into it without too much kind of fear. There isn't any great pressure on us. I think we go into it sort of expecting to not really get anything out of it. So we can go into it and maybe just try and play this kind of free-flowing football that we've talked a lot about and maybe not really seen as much as we'd like to, and see what happens. And hopefully, fingers crossed, possibly, we might have a new striker in by the weekend as well, and that will make a big difference.
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to it in the way that I look forward to most Saturday games, in the fact that I'm going to go and watch Wednesday. That's the main thing. I'm not feeling too confident. I'm not feeling very confident at all. In fact, the last time I went to Middlesbrough away, I got stuck on a motorway at some point on foot. I don't know how that happened. Someone told us to park somewhere, and me and my friend ended up walking across a motorway. But yeah, it was. I'm not overly confident, but I'm quite happy with whatever we get out of it. They're a good side. They're the ones that are pushing this year. I'm not expecting us to get in the top 2. I'd hope for top 6. So yeah, it's let's see what happens. Let's not get on the backs. Let's accept whatever happens this weekend. I'm not feeling negative. I'm not feeling positive. I'm feeling quite realistic about it. At the end of the day, I've got my season ticket. I'm going to go. I'm not going to boo, but I'm not expecting a lot. So,
well said.
To be fair, looking at Middlesbrough's previous results, fair enough. They played Bolton and won 3-0, but Bolton haven't been a fantastic. I mean, to be fair, looking at the highlights of that game, Bolton were chuffing, shocking.
Bolton are my second team, so I can tell you now they're crap.
they're going down.
Just don't follow any team I follow.
And the strike partnership that they've got isn't marvellous, so they were never going to do anything at that end of the pitch. And before that, Derby, they played Derby and drew 1 apiece, which, again, Derby are looking at a decent team, but I wouldn't say they were anything too incredibly special. And of course, they did lose against Bristol as well, didn't they? So
even we beat Bristol.
Absolutely. So, I think Middlesbrough is one of those sides where maybe they look a little bit bigger than what they are. And maybe, again, being all glasses half full, maybe we shouldn't worry about it too much and just let the boys do the job.
Exactly. Just don't worry. There's nothing to worry about. If we lose this, I don't think anyone was expecting us to win it. So anything, a point or more, I am happy. But I'm not going to pile pressure on. I think, do you know what? It's one of those games this season that I think we can afford to not stress about. I don't think none of us are expecting to just power up the league, finish in first place and go straight up.
Yes, I am.
You're predicting 7-0.
Absolutely. I do think we'll win 7-0.
But I just think, if they prove me wrong, brilliant. But if they don't, I'm not going to worry. It's not like playing Oxford on a freezing cold Tuesday night when there's no beer. I'm happy. Whatever happens, fine.
And worst comes to worst, you could just chuck some tape on the pitch and just watch it blow out.
Exactly. Someone take some tape for me, please. Throw it on, and I'll watch that for 90 minutes. That's fine.
And, of course, if we're going to look at the same formation, who would you like to see up front with the players we've got now? Would you want New in there, or, assuming that it's fit, do you want Zhao in there?
Oh, right. Well, I'm going to have to say Zhao, because I just think he offers more of a threat. And we've got to take our chances against Middlesbrough, and I just don't think that Atty takes enough of his chances.
I think I'd go crazy and maybe go 4-4-2 and maybe put Zhao and New up there, because I think New can hold it up. He's not got the best first touch, but he does fight for it. And I think he is someone against a team like Middlesbrough that are playing at a much, well, they're more prepared for the Premiership, let's say, than us. I think that someone like New Hugh would scare them. And hey, let's go crazy. Let's play 4-4-2.
I mean, it has been discussed. I was reading something the other day, and Carlos apparently is shying away from 4-4-2 because he doesn't think he's got the players to play it. I mean, obviously, Stevie May's just disappeared. Does anybody know where he is? Exactly.
Has he gone to Rangers, or is he?
No, he's just not anywhere.
He apparently scored 2
minutes.
in a practice game, didn't he, against Chesterfield on was it Monday night or something like that?
Absolutely, but I mean, obviously we had a bit of a chat about Steve May early doors, and do you think he's just out of favour with Carlos, or he's not in his plans, or just not the kind of football he wants to play? Because I'm really excited about seeing Steve May.
I don't think he's the type of footballer he wants at all. I think he wants someone a bit more skillful or a big lump. I don't think Stevie May fits into either of those categories. So you either need a big lump who's going to scare a defence, like New Hugh, which he does, to be fair to him, he does frighten a defence because he's such a big guy. He does have a really good skill at some point where he can play the smartest ball into somebody, but at the same time, it can be a bit useless. Don't get me wrong, the last few games he has been terrible, and I'm his biggest fan. But I do think that New Hugh and someone like Yusugo or Yujao would make more of a difference than Stevie May and anyone.
It'd be interesting to see Yusugo play up front, actually, because he can play in that role, can't he?
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see how New Hugh fares with someone playing off him. I just don't know, with a team like Middlesbrough, can you take that risk of not playing 5 in midfield? Because they could just destroy us in midfield.
They're going to destroy us either way, aren't they, if we don't
How
change
dare
something?
you?
Oxford were matching us. So if we're going to play Middlesbrough on Saturday, I think he really needs to book his ideas up and get some either goals in or play really defensively and play for a draw. Because otherwise, I don't know.
I don't think he can do that, can he? Because I think the way that he came in and the way that he set out his stall as to what he was about, that he can't 5 or 6 games into the season be setting up defensively. I don't think that he can allow that to become part of his makeup. He can't, can he? Surely that compromises everything that he's about and everything that he said when he came in here.
I think the message I got from Carlos was he will play the tactics to win the game. So if that is a defensive sort of counter-attacking game, I don't think he'd be scared to play it.
I think we need to just open our eyes and see what's in front of us. And, we can play all this sexy football on the training ground, but if it's not working on the pitch, it's not working. And sometimes some teams may well play 4-4-2. And that may well be a very famous formation, and that may well be what we need to start doing. And I don't see why it's such like a Hillsborough for the last few years. We've not done it, and if we have, we've won games. And I think we've got someone like New Hugh who up front with someone else can play the ball into them. Not necessarily Stevie May, but I think the 2 guys that we brought in, João and Sugu, although Sugu obviously isn't a striker as such, I think he'd play well with him up front. Even Matthias.
Is now a good time for us to speculate as to whether anything may change between now and then? Because there's been fairly relentless talk, hasn't there, over the last probably 48 hours, particularly about Gary Hooper coming in. As we speak now, it sounds like, if you believe certain sources, that it's as good as a done deal. We've not heard anything from anyone particularly reputable yet, but you kind of go on the theory maybe that there's no smoke without fire. So it sounds like there's a pretty good chance of that happening before Saturday. So let's imagine in our little fantasy world that it does. Is Atty and Gary Hooper a good combination?
Well, I mean, Hooper's got a cracking scoring record. I mean, fair enough, looking at his Norwich career, it's not been fantastic. In all games, shall we say, 63 appearances, 18 goals. But before that, I mean, he spent 3 years at Celtic. In 95 appearances, 63 goals he scored there. So, I mean, again, the quality is there. It's just, if he does come to Hillsborough, is this the kind of striker we're looking for?
I'd say yes. I think he is. I think that of the options that are out there at the moment, I think he is pretty much up there or thereabouts as the best. If your option is, if you want someone that is proven to bang in championship goals, then you've got to fork out 15 million quid for Jordan Rhodes. And I'm not prepared for my football club to do that. For whatever the figure is that's been bandied about for this, was it $500,000 loan fee and then 30 odd grand a week, whatever it is. So we're talking over $1 million for the course of the season. But his scoring record in the Championship for Norwich is not that bad. He scored 12 in 30 last season, and I think about half of those games were off the bench. I think he scored 12 in something like 18 starts altogether. So I think his record is decent. He has got to be an improvement on what we currently have.
Well, you can guarantee that obviously now we've had that chat, it's likely be utterly wasted, or as soon as we finish recording this evening, the news will come through that we've signed him.
Yep.
So we shall wait and see what happens with that one. And I mean, personally, I think it'd be a cracking signing. Do you two think the same?
Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Simple as that. You sound very enthused, Victoria.
Yeah. You didn't go last night.
Oh, come on. Snap out of it.
Miserable sod.
It's endearing. I'm allowed to be grumpy. It's endearing.
It's really not. So then, let's put that to bed, and I'm sure we'll all be tooting our horns and cheering on the team come Saturday. So, James, can I be obliged and see your little bits on the table, old boy?
My bits are ready for you, my lord. Right, now a slight introduction needed for this. I suffer from kind of like a mild OCD, and I like things to be neat and tidy and symmetrical.
Oh, you'd love me.
So, well, being a Wednesday fan is good for this because we always have a very neat, tidy, symmetrical blue and white striped shirt, so it's good. Football stadiums are generally quite good for someone that suffers from OCD because they have two sides that are the same length and then two other sides that are the same length. I saw an aerial photograph of Cardiff City Stadium earlier on, and I was like, that is a symmetrical dream. It is. It's a work of art from above. Hillsborough less so. We were talking about St James's Park. That's a bit of a dodgy one when you suffer from OCD. That's not very symmetrical at all. But, right, I have an issue now. Whenever I go to Hillsborough, I've seen something that I can't unsee. So we've had these fancy new seats put into the two dugouts. And we've swapped dugouts, so we now have what was the away dugout, and now have what was the home dugout. But the away dugout is about 3 seats longer than the home dugout. And I took a photo of it last Wednesday against Reading, which I'll post it on my Twitter, and I'll put it on the TWWcast Twitter as well. It's ruining my enjoyment at football. I can't deal with it. Why?
It is weird.
Why have they done it?
It's so weird. Like, why would we give them the bigger dugout? I don't understand it. I don't know if there's some sort of, he needs to see it from that angle or whatever, but yeah, it's really annoying.
Apparently the logic as to why they swapped it is because what was the away dugout has the ear, if you like, of the assistant. So it has the ear of the linesman because they're generally closer to him or her.
Okay.
So Carlos wanted to be the one that was trying to sway the decisions is apparently the reason. However, for someone like me, it's a nightmare, and it's just I don't know if I can deal with it anymore. I find myself having to drink at least 10 pints of beer before going to the match, just so I lose my sight so that I can't see that side of the ground. It's
That's
awful.
the excuse, is it, old boy?
It's one of them.
Fellow Millstander, I completely agree with that. It's so annoying.
I can remember in the 92-93 season, we sat in the south stand, right in the corner, and the corner flag for the whole of that season was upside down. There must have been a stitching incident with the corner flag. So you'd have loved that, James, old boy.
I'd just go support a different team. No. Horrible.
And I believe you have another little bit just to keep things equal.
Yeah, my second thing for tonight, and this is quite exciting because this is number 1 in a new occasional series of James's Tweet of the Week. And this week it comes from Dave, I hope I'm going to pronounce this right, Dave Burin, who is at GoldenVision90 on Twitter. And I thought this was brilliant, who tweeted the other day saying, Sheffield Wednesday should seriously have a fanzine called Have I Got News for You? Which was brilliant. Incidentally, second place this week goes to Mark Sanderson, who is at ex-London-Owl, in reply to Dave's tweet, who said, should it be a case of no news is good news? It's an occasional series. It might return next week. It might not. We'll see.
Well, fair play. I think that's a fantastic idea. And I think should that fanzine arrive, I'd be happy to have a little look.
On that note, I miss fanzines. What happened to the War of the Monster Trucks?
Spitting Feathers was my favourite.
Feathers.
When I was a wee schoolboy, I used to write a column in Spitting Feathers every week.
Oh.
I used to get absolutely slated for it. But yeah, it was great. And A View from the East Bank, I remember that one.
Yeah.
Which was actually the same fanzine, wasn't it? It just it changed to Spitting Feathers.
I suppose we've made it technological, haven't we? We brought fanzine to the people
talked about
through their ears.
We've talked before about the fact that War of the Monster Truck still exists.
Absolutely.
As an online blog now, which is actually extremely good. And if you've never read it, it is really, really good. Big up to those guys because they write some really good stuff on there.
Absolutely. Clearly, before you came on this show, Victoria, you obviously just wasn't a listener because we.
No, I wasn't. I'm so sorry.
we have shouted them out on more than one occasion. So yes, keep up the good work, chaps and chapettes over there at War of the Monster Trucks. Best name for a fanzine ever as well. If you don't know the history, read the website. The Wednesday Week is proud to be associated with Cavendish Cancer Care. Cavendish is a Sheffield charity dedicated to improving the quality of life for people living with cancer. No one should face cancer alone, so Cavendish provides emotional support through counselling and complementary therapies. The services they provide are free of charge and are funded through donations. If you can help or would like to find out more information, you can go to www.cavcare.org.uk. That's CAVCARE.org.uk. Right then, ladies and gents, well, that'll put an end to this evening's proceedings. Thank you very much for joining me, James and Victoria. It's been a pleasure as always.
Thank you.
Next week, we are hoping for a rather special guest.
Ooh. David Garrido.
Absolutely, of Sky Sports News fame. And don't worry, ladies and gents, Beastie's not coming back, unfortunately. But yes, we are hoping to have David Greedo on the show next week. Of course, massive Wednesday fan. And we'll keep his fingers crossed for that one. Of course, you can get hold of us at the normal places over there on Twitter at TWWcast. You can get hold of us on Facebook. And, of course, you can email the show, as many people are starting to do, at TWWpodcast.
Many people.
We've had at least...
We've had 2.
Well, some of them we can't read out.
That's a 200% improvement. Come on.
Absolutely. And you can do that at twpodcast@gmail.com. Again, I would like to apologise to our iTunes listeners, but we are now back up and running on iTunes.
Yay!
So thank you so much for bearing with us while we got that little obstacle jumped, shall we say. Of course, you can get us in all the normal places as well. You can get us over there at Mixcloud, of course, on YouTube, and also now on the Podbean app as well. So if you are an Android user, or of course an iTunes user if you like to, you can always get us on Podbean as well. Right, so that's it from us for this week. Thank you very much for joining us, and be safe, and we'll see you real soon.